Okay, so I'm moving on to week 5 of my program when I should only be in week 2. So I felt really good in my body, and I felt like the movements that I had programmed weren't really matching of where I was at. I'm making sure to still listen to my body and still progress appropriately, but it feels good, and I think I'm ready to move. I'm doing a lot more mobility throughout the day now that we've kind of got a better understanding of our daughter and how she works and how this new life that I'm in works. So what I'm going to do is take you through the movements that I'm doing now. They're all body weight. They all can be done throughout the house. You don't need any special equipment for them. And all we're going to do is 2 sets of 10. So we can break that up to do one set earlier in the morning and then one set later in the day. You can do one movement throughout the day and then another movement once you've completed those 2 sets. It really can be broken up however you choose. So what I wanted to do when I was making this program for myself is to make sure I was progressing appropriately. So first, it was just more so focusing on the rehab, icing my body, making sure that I was getting the sleep that I could get. And then I started incorporating some gentle movement practices and then started adding in those. Once I felt good there, I started adding in mobility. I'm still not doing as much walking as I would like to, but it's just hard to get away from the house when I don't know when I'm going to be needed exactly. So these movements and all the movements when I was thinking of this program was to make sure I could do them at any point, and that they weren't so out of my way that I needed equipment. So I'm going to walk you through these, and that way you can utilize them in your postpartum recovery, or maybe if you're just starting exercise, these are great movements to incorporate throughout the day. So let's get to it. Okay, so the first movement is just air squats. So air squats are just body weight squats that I'm doing. I'm just going to do 2 sets of 10. I'm not going to do 2 sets of 10 here, but that way you get the gist. I'm going to walk you through of what I'm focusing on when I'm doing each movement. So with the squats, we're going to go in your standard squat position. So my feet are going to be wider set apart, usually about shoulder width, but it really depends on how you feel in your body. As I'm going down, I'm going to want my booty parallel to my knees. If this is challenging to get into, is it because of our ankles, our hips, or some restriction, then we need to work on that for mobility purposes. So maybe on the off days that we're not exercising, that's something that we're incorporating. As I'm squatting, I'm going to come down and I'm exhaling as I'm coming up. So inhale, exhale. And that breath that we were working on in those first weeks now applies to each of these movements. So see where everything builds going into that postpartum phase and even in the exercise phase if you're not postpartum. So inhaling, exhaling. And as I'm exhaling, still bringing that blueberry up, still engaging my core. I'm not bracing it where I'm like being punched in the gut, but it's more so that fluid movement of all of these portions of the breathing system is going to come together. So inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And as I'm doing these, I'm checking in with my body. Am I feeling it in my butt? Am I feeling it in my thighs? Do I feel any heaviness in the front or the back of my body? Because that would indicate that we need to adjust accordingly. So I'm going to do 2 sets of 10 of that. I'm going to have a 60-second rest in between. Each of these movements, like I've said, 2 sets of 10, 60-second rest in between. You could even say I'm going to do 1 set, unload the dishwasher, and then do my second set. That 60-second rest isn't, mandatory. Okay, some more familiar movements. Bridges was in our, first couple weeks that we warmed up with. So we're going to go back into those. For these, if you feel like they're pretty easy, you can always go into a single leg bridge. So again, further out my feet are from my butt. It's going to be more hamstrings, closer they are. It's going to be more glutes. I want to work my glutes. I'm not really worried about my hamstrings right now, but I could always say I'm going to do 1 set for glutes, 1 set for hamstrings, totally up to you. So as here, I'm going to lift up, exhale, inhale as I come back down, exhale, inhale as I come back down. This, I want to make sure I'm feeling it in my butt. If I'm not, I need to play around, or even, again, using my hands as tactile feedback, lifting up and coming back down. Now, like I said, if you find this is pretty easy for you and you're ready for a challenge, first of all, be honest with yourself. But second, what we'll do is take 1 leg up and lift. I haven't done anything split stance in a long time, actually, now that I'm doing this. So I feel this a lot more in my glutes, but I also feel a little bit of pubic bone pain. And that's just because maybe that part of my body isn't really ready for this kind of movement. And I'm going to say it's not. And the pain isn't so bad that I couldn't do it. But it's more so of like, I just feel my pubic bone more than I would like to with this. And so that's something where, okay, I need to work on this of the glute ridge. Maybe that's too easy. What I can do, grab this ball, is put a ball in between my legs and utilize that as a different modality to challenge myself. And actually, that feels really nice because we also want to work these inside thighs too. So that's an option as well. You can always challenge yourself and maybe do a hip thrust off a bench or a couch or a end table. That might be an option to modify rather than a single leg bridge if it's impacting your pubic bone. Another exercise that we're going to do is a wall push-up. You can do this. This is, again, my first progression for learning how to do a push-up or incorporating a client's goal to do a push-up, but also thinking of it as a chest exercise as it's prepping us for a bench press. You can always start with a wall. If this is too easy, then we can always move to a bench, a couch, or an end table. So thinking of like that incline going down, 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 and then eventually the floor. What I like about the wall push-up is there's not a lot of kind of pressure on this front side of us because that front side has essentially been disengaged to a point. I know I'm saying that incorrectly, but for common audience, it's the best way that I can articulate this, especially right now with my brain. So with a wall push-up, what I'm going to do is I want my hands essentially shoulder width apart. We can have elbows out, but I find that puts a lot of strain on the shoulders. I like more of an elbows in and thinking of I'm pushing up and pushing away. Now, there's progressions and modifications for this, so I can make it super progress. I was going to say super easy, but we can start here, and I'm not so much at an angle. But if I want to make it harder and build on that, I'm going to walk my feet out. I'm going to wait for this car. So I'm going to walk my feet out to make it more challenging for me before I move to a lower apparatus. So I'm going to walk my feet out. Here I am. Elbows in. They're close by my sides. I'm going to drop down and push up, drop down and push up. Now, what we need to make sure is that we're keeping core engaged. Always keep core engaged, right? So this is where the contractions, everything, like I've said, builds on top of each other. So we're going to keep core engaged. I'm going to even prep that before I go into the movement. So I'm going to get in my position. Exhale, relax. Remember, I'm relaxing my pelvic floor. Exhaling, breathing it in nice and tight. And then pushing in, inhale, and exhales and pushing away. Inhale and exhale. So again, 2 sets of 10, rest for 60 seconds. Another exercise is going to be focused more on the shoulders and the back. So this is, again, just a body weight movement. It's called, I like to call it the YTLs. I'm not really sure what the technical term is in it. You can do it on your knees, or maybe if you're feeding baby, you can always do it with one hand, or if you're carrying baby too. So what I'm going to do is kind of go in a bent over position because I'm trying to replicate like a single arm row. It's essentially a buildup of that. You can do it straight up and down, but if I do that, the camera is going to cut off as well. So I'm going to go into a Y, so Y, and then I'm going to go into a T, and then I'm going to go into an L, so T, L. And as I'm doing that, I'm squeezing each of the muscles. So Y, T, L. And I'm just thinking of kind of like a isometrics more so, but going through the movement as opposed to lifting the dumbbell. So I'm going to go Y, T, L. You don't have to be in this position, like I said, but for me, it helps kind of engage. I'm thinking about core and then breathing. So I'm going to inhale, exhale. So it really depends on what feels good for you. You could just start by doing the Ys. The T's, it would be kind of hard, but I would do more of a reverse fly and think of it that way. L's, you can do as well. This is a great one to do on walks as well because you don't really have to stop or do anything. So you'll see me if I'm walking, I kind of do that for a warm up too, just for my shoulders and back. Another exercise is the marches. So the heel slides were our modification for it. Now I'm ready to do marches. Again, I'm going to put my hands on my lower belly here because I want these muscles right here to work. So as I'm doing this, I'm just bringing my foot up and down and then up and down. You can do one side and then switch sides, or you can alternate. The thing about these is it's essentially a progression for dead bug. But if I'm not ready for dead bug, or I'm seeing that coning and doming here, then I know there's a breathing thing that I need to work on. So if I'm going to do marches, still feeling that lower. If you feel like you get to marches and maybe this is your third time doing this exercise routine and you're like, man, I really don't feel those lower abs today, then you can always go back to the heel slides. It's always okay to bounce between, because it's really what works for your body. Again, everything is so individualistic that this is just a general outline. It's not something that you have to do. And like, for example, I thought I was going to be doing this on week 5, but I'm week 2 essentially right now. And that's because for me as an individual, I feel ready to move on and progress. So if you feel like even the marches are a little too easy, what we can do is start incorporating maybe an arm, right? Where I still have a stabilizer over here, but now I'm just creating some more movement and some more coordination with my breathing. Or I can say, okay, let's do both legs up, and I'm going to use one arm, but I'm going to use my other hand as my feedback. So I can come here. But again, watching my pubic bone, or if I'm ready, I can do, oops, I'm not doing that right. If I'm ready, I can do the whole circuit. What I don't want to see is like a rocking. I want a nice flat back, stabilize. So exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. So when I'm focusing on that breathing component as well, that should add some extra engagement of the core. So hopefully these videos are helpful. If you found this movement easy for yourself, you're welcome to use the progressions. If you have questions on modifications or progressions, please comment below, and we'll see you on the next video.